Next up, we have Tilly from Tilly and the Buttons, telling us more about how she got started sewing and creating patterns to sell to help others learn how to sew their own clothing. It's lovely to have you join us.
Oh, thanks, Amy.
Yeah, so welcome to our virtual Q&A. I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about you and Tilly and the Buttons as a brand and how you got started, really.
So I started Tilly and the Buttons as a personal sewing blog on the 1st of January 2010, so quite a long time ago now, basically as a way of sharing my passion for DIY fashion with other people who could understand why I was so excited by fabrics and sewing patterns and stitching techniques, because at the time I didn't know anyone else who sewed in real life, because it wasn't really a hobby that's as popular now in the UK. So that's how it started, and then it just kind of grew from there very, very gradually. Firstly, because people were saying to me, oh, I would love to make my own clothes as well, but I don't understand sewing patterns, they're really intimidating, I don't understand all the techniques, don't know where to start. And I thought, yeah, that's a good point, actually, that it's quite hard to get into if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know where to start. And also a lot of the resources at the time were they just basically assumed that you already understood the sewing jargon, you could read the sewing pattern diagrams, and that you knew the techniques. Whereas a lot of people of my generation just, didn't grow up learning to sew. We never sewed at school. My mum, even though she knows how to sew, she never taught me. So anyway, basically I decided to start sharing some very beginner friendly blog posts on how to get into sewing. And then that just kind of exploded, and the blog just became really popular from that. And then bit by bit, I was thinking more and more about how to make sewing accessible for more and more people, because I just wanted more people to discover how amazing it is to be able to just take a piece of fabric and turn it into a dress and wear it out and say, oh yeah, I made this. So my professional background is in training and education, so I already had that kind of experience of developing courses and resources. And yeah, bit by bit I started developing sewing patterns, very low scale in the early days. It was just me sitting in my flat in Brixton doing the majority of everything myself. And then bit by bit, I've grown a team, and we've now got a studio in South London. So we've now got a line of both printed and digital sewing patterns that you can buy in John Lewis, Liberty, lots of haberdasheries all around the world, as well as our own online shop. I've written 3 sewing books, and we also do online workshops where I teach dressmaking through video classes. Yeah, so that's a whistle-stop tour.
Wow, yeah, you got so much. Yeah, you've done so much in that time, sort of between
Yeah, well, it's quite a long time, so I did kind of grow it very gradually, because there was never one point where I thought, right, I'm going to start a business. It was just a sort of gradual evolution.
That's nice. It naturally evolved into it, sort of thing.
Yeah, it did.
Your passion took on, like, in your hobby as a job, which is amazing, and turned into a business, which is brilliant. And like you say, having something going from paper to an actual garment really it is amazing, really. I mean, I've got into it a lot as well, a lot more, and just seeing something, you think, oh, I could never do that. How could you make this from paper and like almost just shapes? You look at it like shapes, and then creating it into something that you can wear and be like, I actually made this. Or
someone says, like, oh, where's your coat from? Well,
so yeah. What was the first pattern that you actually created?
First pattern it was called the Matilda blouse. We've now only got it as a digital pattern, but it's like a sort of quite a boxy shape, but with puff sleeves, which are actually really on trend at the moment. But at the time, a lot of people thought they were too puffy and didn't like them. But I loved them. But there was, these big sort of balloony sleeves, some little pin tucks down the front. So actually relatively complex for one of our patterns, because nowadays a lot of our patterns, and particularly the ones we're known for, our most popular ones, are very simple and beginner friendly. But yeah, it also had buttons down the back, which I love a button back. So that was the first one. So I'd done two courses in fact, in pattern cutting at the London College of Fashion, and then I had made this pattern just for myself and put some photos of it on the blog, and then lots of people were saying, oh, can we make that? Can you share the pattern? And I thought, okay, well, I'll try. So I got it graded into all the different sizes, and I learned how to make the technical drawings and took photos of all the steps on the blog, and did it it was just a digital download initially. It was literally just black and white instructions and the pattern, and you download it directly from my blog. Nowadays our patterns are a lot different. They're sort of these beautiful full color booklets with photos of all the steps. But yeah, that was the very first one, the Matilda blouse. You can still find it on our shop.
It's so nice to hear sort of like where it sort of like started and like what you initially sort of came up the idea, and then how it's evolved into so many patterns that you sell on your website now. It's really,
I think a lot of the times if people are new to a company or new to following someone on social media, for example, you often think like, oh, that they just did that overnight and how have they got to that level, whereas actually it's taken years and years and lots of trial and error, and I just constantly am thinking about how to improve the business, how to take it to the next stage and make it better and better. So yeah, it started off very basic. It was still good, but it was just, you know, very simple, and then bit by bit we've grown it.
No, that's amazing. And what inspires you the most when you are creating patterns or clothing and fabric choices, things like that? What is your main inspiration?
I guess it's the maker community in general, but the thing that really motivates me is the messages we get from people saying that they have just started sewing and that our patterns have given them such a big confidence boost, and that they're so happy with what they made. Or maybe they've said, oh, I tried sewing in the past and it was so difficult, but I've now used your patterns and it's really sort of reignited my love of it. And yeah, just that feeling of, I guess, being able to give people a joyful experience of creating something with their own hands, and just that amazing feeling you get when you've made something yourself.
Yeah, and then you can just think, oh, how can I sort of evolve this even further and like create something, because everyone sort of loved, say, a certain dress. I know that one of your dresses was really popular, trying to think of the name of it now. The one
Was it the indigo?
Indigo, that's it. The indigo.
Yeah, that's the recent big hit.
And
I'm wearing indigo actually. So sort of
perfect.
not dress with the. This is one of the options. There's various options for it, including, it was so popular, we added an add-on pattern to turn it into a midi length dress. So a bit like, you know, the Zara dress that everyone has. Or I don't have it, but one of those, and you can also make it with short sleeves and a button back and all these different features. I said I loved a button back. Yeah, and that has been super popular as well, and that's just a digital download that you need, and you also need the indigo. You need to put them together, but those two together have been so popular and all over.
Amazing. So you can see how popular the indigo was, and then when you do add on the add-ons, it's like, wow, I can make so many dresses for a wardrobe that all look totally different as well.
Yeah. If you look at the hashtag on Instagram, it's hashtag sewing indigo. Yeah, you'll see how different it looks, and it's such a nice dress. I've got.
And how it changes with different types of fabric as well. It's a totally different dress with a different type of fabric, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's one of the beauties of sewing, is that you can just make something really unique, and you can make the same pattern again and again, and it can look totally different depending on the weight of the fabric, the drape of the fabric, obviously the color, the print, the style, and also which pieces you add to it. So we always have lots of variations in our patterns, so you can make something that looks totally different.
Very inspiring to hear you saying about how you can really change sort of an outfit, adding frills and even just trimmings and adding on a little bit extra, and that will change and evolve it as well.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite pattern as we're talking about patterns? I mean, I know it's a hard question to ask.
Yeah, I kind of do. Well, I do love indigo. I wear that all the time, but in terms of one that I really enjoy making, we've got a pattern called Fifi, which has just gone out of print, but we've got it as a digital download still. And it's a little camisole and short set. In fact, someone made it on the sewing bee this year and then won garment of the week. It was so cute. But it's more advanced. So it's got techniques like bias cut fabric, bias binding, little narrow curved hems and elastic and things. But it's just such a nice pattern to make, I think, because it's all little pieces that just fit on your sewing table, and I just love little intricate techniques, so I do enjoy that one.
It's nice to hear sort of like what your favorite is as well. I know my favorite is probably between two, the indigo dress, because I have made an indigo dress that's like a pale pink sort of with like a textured like dot all over it, sort of spot. And the Nora top, obviously. I've made a couple of those now because they're nice and easy and basic to do. Is there a project you're working on next? Have you got your personal project or anything to reveal in the Tin the Buttons, or is it a secret?
Well, as you know, we've got a collaboration coming up for something in early November that I am super, super excited about. So we're just putting the finishing touches to the thing. And then we'll have your thing, and it's going to be the best thing ever. I'm so excited about it, and sorry to be annoying that I can't say what it is, but it will be out in early November. It's limited numbers, so if you want in, you need to get on our email list. So yeah, you can find it in our Instagram profile. There'll be a link to join the email list and find out what it is. It's going to be so
very excited. Very excited. So that brings me on to, actually, I was going to ask you about new products, but we'll save that for November time.
Also, when this comes out, we should have just released a new pattern, which is our first ever menswear pattern, which is a male version of our Jamie pajamas called the Joe pajamas. They're actually named after my brother and my sister-in-law. So this is a super, super simple sewing pattern to make. It's great for making Christmas presents or birthday presents, or just, you know, for anyone. And they're great to embellish, as you know, as well.
My Jamie shorts there.
So yes, we'll be offering the two patterns as a bundle, Jamie and Joe, at a little discount as well, as PDFs. And we've also got a free video tutorial on how to make them on our YouTube channel.
Amazing.
Especially for beginners, and this pattern, both the Joe and the Jamie pajamas, they're perfect for beginners, because it's basically just sewing a few straight lines, putting some elastic in, and you're done. And pajamas are, you know, they're easy to fit, they're casual. You can use a really simple fabric like cotton, something that's not going to slip and slide around on your sewing machine or while you're cutting it out. So yes, yeah, so definitely a really good place to start if someone wants to get into making their own clothes.
Yeah, perfect. And is there one tip for any beginner that you have that you've learned sort of over the years?
I guess just make sure that the project you are starting with is simple and is not going to discourage you, especially if you're sewing on your own and you're not going to a course or something where you have that teacher support. You really want something where you're not going to be put off by any fiddly techniques. So I would avoid darts, set-in sleeves, things like gathering, fiddly techniques, zips, buttonholes for your very, very first project. We've got plenty of patterns that avoid all those things. And pick something that is going to be easy to fit, because that's where a lot of people struggle in the early days when you're still trying to get used to your body shape. And yeah, pick something where you can make it with a fabric, as I mentioned before, that's not going to slip and slide, that's not going to stretch out of shape as you're sewing it. So something like the Jamie pajamas, which come with the free YouTube video, or we've got a really, really simple skirt. Again, I designed it especially for complete beginners, called Dominique, and we've got an online workshop as well on how to make that. And then we had a new pattern out recently called the Lotta dress, which is also very simple. It's slightly more advanced than those two, but if you really want to get your teeth stuck into it, you'll learn lots of different techniques. And again, we've got an online workshop for that one if anyone needs extra help.
That's brilliant. So that's great. It's great if you're starting off. That's a perfect tip that you'd need really to sort of get started with your patterns. And one last thing I wanted to ask is, have you got any tips for other small businesses during this time at the moment that you have found helpful, or any advice at all?
I think I would say just use this strange time as an opportunity to evaluate what's working, what isn't working, anything you'd like to change, but also just take the opportunity to do new things. So things like, this Zoom chat that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to do. And I've had a few things like this that, just feel like fresh and exciting and different. And we never would have done this before had I been sat in my office all day with the team around me. And so just try and see the silver lining and take the opportunity to do positive things.
Definitely. And like you say, like the internet and making use of the technology we have, is really nice to connect us together. And yeah, it feels like you're in the HappyFabric office with me. So you literally are. So yeah, it's really nice to sort of catch up with everyone and still interact. There's still that interaction.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's sort of brought small businesses together in a way, hasn't it? In the way that everyone wants to support each other and just look at different ways of working together.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Tilly. It's hopefully, we'll be revealing all later on, obviously, in the few months. So very exciting. So keep an eye out, everyone, to see what we're up to. But yeah, thank you very much. And
thank you.